Okay, I wanted to show you another trade in the FTSE futures from the European session using Trend Jumper. Unfortunately, I did record the trade room session where I showed this, but it for some reason was not it was not working properly when I was editing it. So I decided just to do a quick video and run through exactly what I ran through in the session. So this trade appeared here, this jump line 9 trade, the white setup here, and it appeared before the normal start time at 8:05 UK time. I actually took this setup at 3 minutes past, just after 3 minutes past 8, and the reason being was because the whole purpose of starting at 8:05 was because the way that the data is for the FTSE is that overnight there's a few ticks basically, and they create on a tick chart or a volume chart, they can create these really large candlesticks and distort where the indicators really would lie. So if you get a situation where you're opening relatively close to the prior day's close, that's not going to be the same. So it's going to be fairly accurate for where the indicators should be. So in this case, that's the way it was, and I took it slightly early, and it did go on side fairly quickly, but then it retested this swing low just by a tick. Now you can see I've drawn in a couple of zones I'm interested in, just some little zones of consolidation. It's not exact, it's not precise, I'm just trying to outline the bulk of the action. You can see that it goes, it doesn't go to any extreme of a swing. It's just roughly that zone where I'm looking to see whether there's going to be any kind of reaction. So at this point let me just draw in this line so that we can keep an eye on that. So at this point we then moved up a little bit, and then we came back down and we retested, and we just got through by one tick. So we'd already got through by one tick, we got through by another tick, and then we came back up, looked back up to 47.5, and then we only broke, and remember this is the low of the day at the moment, so the green line is the session start, the vertical line here, and we just broke through by one tick, and that's a pretty dangerous thing for sellers in this case, and obviously the one tick on the high for buyers for the potential reversal. If you've ever watched that happen, you can frequently see a big reversal or fairly rapid reversal on a one tick fail of the high or the low of the day. It's just one tick away from this money management target, this first dot, which is where we would lock in one tick. And so my view is that if it gets back above this swing high here at 47.5, I think that this stop is possibly vulnerable for a test, and this is not something that I want to happen, so I'm happy with the fact that it's just one tick away from the money management to actually count that as having activated. So at this point I've moved my stop from 54.5 down to 48, so the entry was at 48.5, moved it to 48. So the trade is in theory risk-free at this point. Remember, it's only in theory because your stop is basically a market order once it's activated, and if you get slippage then it could still lose you money on the trade, but in theory the trade's safe now. So what happened subsequently was it didn't get anywhere near that, so we didn't need the stop. It got to the complete money management target 1 at 42, and then it actually went straight pretty much to the target, the full target of 39.5. So that was the full fixed target. 39.5 from 48.5, so that's 9 points on the first half of the position. And at this point it got to this zone, and this is one of the weaknesses of a tick or a volume or a range based chart. You don't see what happens in terms of speed, so it did slow down here a little bit, and it paused here for a few minutes. So it got there. The close of this candlestick is at 3:23, 8:23 UK time, and this one is at 8:26. So that was pretty much 3 minutes. It held around the top of this zone before actually moving straight down. Now, if you just looked at this without knowing that, without seeing what had happened in real time, you wouldn't have realized that there was any kind of pause. You'd have to dig into the data a little bit more carefully, because obviously this just looks like a pretty intense sell-off that didn't have much of a pause in there, other than possibly the fact that you've got a green candlestick in the middle of it. So I'm noting at this point as well that the jump line 9 and the jump line 4 are quite close together, and they've expanded away from each other. Now, one thing that I do with the FTSE in particular is that I like to, if there's a big thrust, a quick move, I like to trail the jump line 4, because I don't want it to come too far back on me, especially if the jump line 9 has lagged a bit behind the jump line 4, which can often be the case. The jump line 9 is the preference, but in this case I did start trailing the jump line 4. So it's got through this area, and I'm looking for the target of the zone below. So down towards like the 23, 24 area, something like that. I've also drawn in a possible trend channel. It's not a good trend channel, I've just drawn it in as a possible channel. So there's a high resistance part of it, and a possible area where it might make a support line on the low of the channel. It happens to tie in nicely with that area that I'm interested in from back here. So we go forward, and this is exactly where we get to, and then I see a bit of a move back up. Now, the one thing that you'd say here is that, okay, well, we're quite far on side, it's probably worth giving it a little bit more room, because we're still making good profits anyway, and we could be in for a really big move. However, we've seen a move here from a high of 59.5 down to a low of 23, and we've not really looked back. We've hardly had any sort of move back at all, and you can see that straight away there was a fairly strong pullback from that area that I was talking about. So in this case here, I was still trailing the jump line 4, and you can see actually as well there was quite a big separation at this point between the jump line 9 and the jump line 4. So the jump line 9 stop was at 30.5, and I actually stopped out within this bar here at the jump line 4 stop, which was 26.5. So actually saved an extra 4 points on that, 8 ticks, which was pretty good. And you do that consistently over time, it does add up pretty quickly. I also said at that point that I just think that although I do suspect that it will go lower, because of that move, the way it's not pulled back, the stop is probably getting to a point where it's fairly vulnerable, and it's worth taking it off unless you want to run it behind a much bigger, a much wider stop, like say the 50 EMA or something like that, but with a 2-position strategy it's probably not worth doing that. So as you saw before, it did pop up quite quickly there and went straight through the jump line 9 stop as well, and later on we did go quite a bit lower, as you can see. But this is where the stop was for the trade, and that's what you've got to take. And although it doesn't look huge in the grand scheme of things, it's still a pretty nice trade. So the entry was 48.5 there, and it went all the way down to 26.5 on the trailing stops, 22 points, which is not bad at all. So thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you next time.